In this tutorial, we're going to go over the basics of works cited page entries. In the last tutorial, you added a works cited page with a few sample entries to your template. We'll be continuing to work on that template, so open it now. If you can't find your template, you can either review previous lessons or use the sample template provided in the supplementary materials for this tutorial. For many student writers, source formatting feels unnecessarily nitpicky, but there's a reason sources need to be presented in a precise way. Basically, all of the formatting serves as a sort of code that tells the reader how to read the information on the works cited page and find the original source if necessary. As a student, you want to make it as easy as possible for your teacher to verify your research so that you get full credit, and formatting is what makes that possible. We'll go over examples of 3 very common source types: a book with one author, a journal article with more than one author, and a YouTube video. But before we do that, I want to show you the 2 best resources for MLA formatting: the MLA Handbook for Writers of Research Papers and Purdue OWL. I've also included links to these 2 sites in the supplementary materials for this tutorial. Let's look at the handbook first. If you find you need to reference a lot of sources, you might want to invest in a current copy of the MLA Handbook for Writers of Research Papers. It's the complete rulebook for MLA style, and it's in its 7th edition as of 2014. If you purchase the handbook, you also get access to the guide's website, which includes updates for rule changes that are too new to appear in the printed guide. The site is particularly valuable for citing new forms of social media. Now let's go to Purdue OWL. This is the online writing lab for Purdue University, and it's a wonderful resource full of MLA examples. If you look at the menu on the left side, you'll see that the examples are organized based on the issue involved. So if, for example, I want to know how to cite a page on a website, I click on Electronic Sources and scroll down to find the example I need. I suggest that you bookmark this site or jot down the URL somewhere you can easily find it. But Purdue OWL is a well-established site, so if you lose the URL, you can Google Purdue OWL MLA and easily find the site again. Okay, so let's go back to the template and start creating our sample entries. Since we're going to make samples that include common issues, you'll be able to use these as placeholders for many of your sources. First, we'll create a book source with one author. I've used a book called Laura Ingalls Wilder, A Writer's Life in my paper, and I want to create an entry on my works cited page. The basic information needed is the author's name, the title of the book, the publication year, the publisher's name and location, and the publication medium. The most common mediums are print and web. You can find most of the information you need looking on the cover of the book or in the early pages, where all the copyright information is found. In this case, I find that the author of the book is Pamela Smith Hill. The book was copyrighted in 2007, and there's no other publishing year given, which tells me it was published the same year. The publisher is the South Dakota State Historical Society Press, and the publisher's location is Pierre, South Dakota. The basic formatting is to list the author first, last name, comma, first and middle names, period. The title of the book goes in italics. Click on the italics button. Capitalize the first letter of each word, excluding articles, long prepositions, and conjunctions, unless they also happen to be the first word of the title or subtitle. Period. Be sure to click on the italics button again to unselect it. Now enter the publishing city, colon, and the publisher's name. Comma, year of publication, period. This is a physical book, so enter the word print, capitalizing the P, period. And that's it, we have a book source. I've used a journal article I found on the online database JSTOR, and the article has 2 authors. I need all the same information as before, but I also need both the name of the journal and of the article I'm referencing, the journal's volume and issue numbers, and the pages on which the article appears. I also need the digital location of the article. You'll find all of this information on the search results page where you found the article. In JSTOR, all the information is gathered on a link called View Citation. We just have to format it properly. While many academic databases give you pre-formatted references, I suggest that you at least double-check the formatting because these databases sometimes contain errors, and copying and pasting can result in some formatting problems in your document. We're going to write our source. Start as before with the authors' names. When there are multiple authors, you separate them by a comma, and you place every name after the first name in its normal order. First name, last name. List the authors as you find them, even if it's not alphabetical. In this case, Steckel is listed before Prince, so I'm going to maintain that. Steckel, comma, Richard, H, period, comma, and Joseph, M, period, Prince, period. Quotation marks, title of the article with the first letter of all words except conjunctions, articles, and long prepositions capitalized, period. Quotation marks. Click on the italics button. Title of the journal in italics with the same capitalization as the article title. Click on the italics button again to deselect. Comma, volume number, period, issue number, parenthesis, year of publication, parenthesis, colon, page number. If there's a range, list the first and last page numbers separated by a dash. Period. Since we found this journal in an online database, we also need to identify the database. Click on the italics button and write the database title using the capitalization method used by the source. In this case, JSTOR appears in all capital letters. Period. Click the italics button again to deselect it. This is a web source, so write web, capitalizing the first letter, period. MLA no longer requires URLs, but many teachers do. If your teacher wants URLs, add them at the end, surrounded by angle brackets. End the citation with a period. Why do we present the information in precisely this way? Who knows? If you try to apply logic to source formatting, you'll drive yourself crazy. The best answer for why is usually that, at some point, someone had to make a decision so that everyone was formatting in the same way, and that's the choice that was made. Hit the return key. Chances are good that you'll see a line appear underneath your URL. It may also turn blue. That's because OpenOffice assumes that any URL is intended to include a hyperlink so that the reader can go right to the location by clicking on the URL. We don't want that to happen. Hold down the Control key and click on the link. A drop-down menu should appear. Release the Control key and click on Remove Hyperlink. Place your cursor on the next line. Don't place it next to the URL, or it will be hyperlinked again when you press Return or the spacebar. While this article doesn't have one, many newer journal articles use a DOI number. DOI stands for Digital Object Identifier, and the number is used as a sort of universal identifying number for journal articles. The idea is that eventually articles will all have a DOI, enabling researchers to quickly find out if a desired article is held in a particular database. MLA doesn't yet require a DOI, but it likely will in the future, so I wanted to point it out to you so that if your teacher asks you to list a DOI, you know what they look like. Now you have an example of a book with one author and a journal article from an online database with two authors. You can mix and match the information in these samples. So, for example, if you have an ebook from an online database with two authors, you'll use the general book format, but you'll pull up the formatting for multiple authors, as well as the formatting for adding a URL if your teacher wants one. Use your best judgment for placement. For example, although the book sample doesn't have a URL, the URL for the journal sample goes at the end of the entry. So you can easily see that the URL would go at the end of the reference. Commas and periods are connected with the item that came before them. So if you are ever in any doubt about whether you need a comma or a period for a mixed example like this, look at the last item before what you are trying to insert. For the last example, we're going to format a YouTube entry. Social media formatting is relatively new, so don't look for any kind of consistency here. If you can't find a direct example in Purdue OWL or the MLA manual website, choose the sample that is most closely aligned with the media you're citing. For example, Yelp reviews have a lot in common with Facebook posts. So if you need to cite a Yelp review, the guidelines for a Facebook post are probably going to work best. However, a word of caution. If you can't find a specific example for the media you want to cite in either Purdue OWL or the MLA manual, you need to consider whether your source is appropriate for academic writing. The answer is going to depend on the course, the assignment, and your instructor. So if you are in any doubt, ask. I want to cite this YouTube video entitled Following the Trail of Laura Ingalls Wilder's Little Houses. I need the screen name of the poster, the exact date the video was posted, the title of the video, and the date I viewed the video. If you forgot to make note of the exact day you first viewed the video, just go back to YouTube and confirm the video is still posted and use today's date. If possible, find the real name of the poster as well. Check the opening and closing credits and look to see if the YouTube page is linked to a blog or website. If it is, check the home and about pages to see if the poster gives a real name. As a teacher, I generally do a quick check of the page and see if I can find the author's real name in any of those places. If I can, but the student only lists the screen name, I will take a deduction. We don't expect students to become private investigators, but we do expect you to check the obvious places. In this case, I've looked at those places and don't see a real username. So I'll start with the screen name, capitalizing the first letter of the first word. Period. Quotation marks. Title of the video with the first letter of all words capitalized, excluding articles, long prepositions, and coordinating conjunctions, unless they are also the first word in the title or subtitle. Period. Quotation marks. Online video clip. Period. Click on the italics button. YouTube. Period. Click on the italics button again to deselect. Now this next bit may seem odd. MLA hasn't formally identified a format for YouTube videos, so you should check Purdue OWL or your manual regularly in case this changes. For now, write YouTube again, comma, date of publication with the day first, followed by the month and the year. Period. Web. Period. Finally, list the date you viewed the video in the same order. Period. As a last step, we need to be sure our sources are in alphabetical order. In this case, our video is last, but it needs to be first. Put your cursor in front of the first reference and hit return. Now select your video reference and click the Cut key. Place your cursor in the blank row you just created at the top and click the Paste key. So now we have a book, a journal article, and a YouTube video. You'll probably be able to use these examples to format the majority of your sources, and you can use Purdue OWL or your MLA manual for the rest. A final word of caution. A common mistake students make is to leave placeholder material on the Works Cited page, particularly if they are writing an essay that doesn't require any research. This results in lost points. When you use your template, be sure to check the Works Cited page and replace the material with your actual sources. If you aren't using sources, delete everything on the page, including the Works Cited title. And that's it, not only for this lesson, but also for your template. We'll be using the template to practice different techniques in future lessons, but you should save a clean version somewhere and then create a practice version to use for the class. That way, you won't accidentally wreck your template trying out different formatting techniques. Thanks for joining me for this tutorial.